Have you ever stopped to wonder why some men, in a single lifetime, build empires that shape generations, while others barely escape mediocrity? I'm not here to offer you consolation. I'm here to reveal the code, the billionaire code. The same code I used to escape poverty in Scotland and build the world's largest steel empire. The same code I gave to Napoleon Hill, so that he could share with the world a part of what only a few dare to apply in its entirety. Today, I will unveil before your eyes the raw and indisputable truth that separates the common man from the builder of unshakable wealth. Pay attention. What I am about to share with you are not theories. They are principles tested in the fire of life, forged in the steel of reality. And if you truly want to step out of the audience and sit among the architects of destiny, then stay with me until the end. Because the journey that begins now could literally rewrite your financial, emotional, and spiritual future. Now, before we go any further, make a decision. Commit to your own transformation. Subscribe to this channel, get actively involved in the comments, and allow this mentoring to be your compass from here on out. When I landed in America with my family living in a one-bedroom basement, there was no wealth, no connections, no privileges. Only the early understanding of one absolute fact: the man who rules his mind can rule any industry. Those who wait for ideal circumstances remain poor. Those who create circumstances prosper. The first pillar of the billionaire code is the absolute definition of purpose. There is no sustainable wealth without total focus. The mistake most people make is trying to embrace multiple paths, dissipating energy on small, simultaneous endeavors. I chose steel. I focused brutally and exclusively on this industry until I mastered it completely. So should you. The universe rewards the man who concentrates his energy on a single point of impact until it becomes unshakable. Napoleon Hill called this definiteness of purpose. But I already knew. Those who don't have a non-negotiable purpose serve the purposes of others. Without focus, you'll be just another person drifting aimlessly on the tides of chance. The second secret is the alliance of superior minds. No one builds an empire alone. I surrounded myself with men who were smarter than me in specific areas. My talent lay in selecting and leading these men. I delegated with surgical precision, but always supervised with strategic vision. And here lies a fatal trap. Most people fear surrounding themselves with superior minds because of insecurity. A fragile ego does not build legacies. If you want to grow, accept this truth. Your team must be more capable than you in their respective roles. Remember this maxim that guides my business. Hire people who know more than you. But it is not enough to gather talent. You must govern yourself before you can govern men or businesses. Emotional control is the invisible secret weapon of wealth builders. I have seen tycoons fail because they were slaves to impulses, uncontrolled, greed, irrational fear, destructive vanity. I have kept a cool head in crucial negotiations, even when millions were at stake. Rational coolness, thoughtful decision-making, simplicity of life, even in the face of abundance. Write down what I'm about to tell you because it could save your future. A man who does not govern himself will never command anything. The fourth pillar is solid, progressive growth. Don't look for shortcuts. Don't be seduced by quick gains. All expansion must be methodical, sustained, and secure. Before moving forward, master the ground you stand on. Each new stage of growth must be supported by solid foundations, not speculative sandcastles. Here is a principle that most will never apply. Reinvest whenever possible. Capital should not be consumed in ephemeral pleasures, but fed back into the productive machine. That is how I turned modest initial profits into colossal launches. The fifth element of the billionaire code is continuing education. I read every day. I sought applicable knowledge with obsession. While others wasted hours on trivialities, I immersed myself in books that broadened my view of business, finance, and leadership. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Let me ask you a simple and brutal question. How many books on business, strategy, and leadership have you read in the last year? Few, I know, and that is why few rule while many serve. But the code does not end with accumulation. True greatness lies in strategic philanthropy. Money should be distributed while you are still alive, not to create dependency, but to empower the masses. Libraries, universities, self-sufficiency institutions. The man who dies rich dies miserable. This is an immutable law of my philosophy. When I entrusted Napoleon Hill with part of this code, I knew he would need to adapt it to make it palatable to the masses. But the core remains the same. Inner government, absolute focus, methodical building, choosing superior allies, continuous reinvestment, relentless education, and strategic generosity. Now, before we go any deeper into the mental and strategic engineering of empire building, I want you to make a small act of commitment, right here in the comments. I am ready to build my empire. Do this not for me, but for yourself. Declare your commitment publicly, because what comes next is the most hidden core of the billionaire code. Get ready. Now that you have declared your commitment, I can give you the secret gear that drives the entire billionaire code, the architecture of supreme efficiency. Do you want to know how a man born into extreme poverty can dominate an entire industry in just a few years? There is no magic, there is engineering. And this engineering begins with an unrelenting obsession with efficiency. In every inch of the operation, I didn't allow waste, not of resources, not of time, not of talent. Every dollar invested, every hour worked, every person hired, everything was calibrated to serve the ultimate goal, solid, profitable expansion. When I entered the steel industry, I wasn't seduced by the glamour of visible operations. I went underground. I controlled the iron mines, the mills, the rail transport, the shipping ports. I took ownership of the entire production chain, from raw material extraction to the final product. That is the secret of absolute vertical integration. While other entrepreneurs fought over tight margins, I controlled every link in the chain, reducing costs, increasing quality, and crushing competitors who depended on intermediate suppliers. Most people today still make the same mistake. They set up fragile businesses that depend on multiple third parties and are vulnerable to external shocks. Listen carefully. A solid empire is born when you control the source, processing, and distribution. But efficiency is not just about cutting costs. It is about maximizing production without sacrificing quality. It is about adopting technologies before your rivals even understand their existence. It is about predicting, preparing, and dominating. Now answer me this. In your field, do you control the chain? Do you govern the flow, or do you depend on third parties? If your answer is still no, you are not yet operating under the code. But even supreme efficiency would succumb without the next element, the unwavering choice of allies. Many fail because they choose their associates, managers, and partners based on friendship, favors, or family ties. This is pure poison in business. I chose men who were technically superior to me, men obsessed with results, men whose loyalty was not in words but in consistent delivery. My criteria were relentless. If you don't deliver, you're out, no matter your last name, history, or past. This created a culture of excellence at every level of my empire. Think about who surrounds you today. Do your allies challenge you to grow, or do they drag you down with mediocrity disguised as loyalty? The billionaire code does not tolerate parasites. It requires armies of mental and operational gladiators. But there is an even more fatal mistake than surrounding yourself with weak people: the destructive anxiety for rapid growth. Listen carefully. Many who aspire to wealth want to climb in months what takes years to build. They try to climb mountains without building the necessary muscle. The result? They fall, dragging with them capital, reputation, and often their mental health. I expanded my empire step by step. Each new venture was only launched after the previous one had been completely mastered. Each acquisition was calculated to strengthen the foundation before expanding the top. You don't climb a building without a foundation. You dig first, then you build. Then you raise the floors, one at a time. This is the true meaning of long-term vision with daily execution. And to sustain that vision, the next pillar of the code is indispensable: emotional mastery as the ultimate weapon. Look at the great losers in finance, and you will see a repeating pattern. They were victims of themselves. Greed in moments of euphoria, panic in downturns, pride in negotiations, envy of competitors. I, on the other hand, was trained from an early age in the art of emotional neutrality. No matter the value of the trade, my mind remained as cold as the steel it produced. Because understand this, those who rule their emotions rule the market. On the stock exchange, At the trading desk, or in business expansion, it was always the most emotionally disciplined who won, not the most intellectually intelligent. Allow me to confess, there were times in my career when I lost millions, on paper. But I never lost control of my mind, because I knew the mind is the real asset. The rest is a consequence of it. Now we come to one of the most neglected aspects by those aspiring to great wealth: simplicity of life, even in abundance. While others flaunted mansions and banquets, I preferred sobriety. Not because the money wasn't available, but because I knew that addiction to luxury destroys the muscle that builds wealth. Discipline. Simplicity strengthens focus. Excessive luxury dulls vision. True greatness is not in consuming wealth, but in multiplying it to generate impact. And this is precisely where the billionaire code connects to its greater purpose: philanthropy as a natural extension of empire. Wealth, ultimately, is not an end. It is a means to elevate society, a means to enlighten minds, open paths, build generations of self-sufficient men and women. The hundreds of libraries, universities, and institutions I founded were not empty charitable works. They were calculated social investments to perpetuate the cycle of human growth. If your wealth does not lift others up, it rots. If your fortune does not educate, emancipate, and inspire, it destroys you from within. That is why I repeat, the man who dies richtig miserable. Now that you are beginning to see the inner workings of the billionaire code, get ready. In the next section, I will take you even deeper into the practical application of these principles in modern business, showing you exactly how to translate these timeless secrets from 1900 to the business battlefield of 2025. Now that you understand the fundamentals, let's enter the battlefield where most fail: relentless execution and long-range strategic thinking. Many talk about success, but few understand the silent and brutal nature of building true wealth. Empires are not built on good intentions. They are built on daily, meticulously calibrated decisions. When I established my dominance in steel, I didn't fight my competitors on the surface. While they fought over contracts and price wars, I controlled the iron mines, the railroads, the smelters, and the distribution channels. Learn this lesson. True power lies in controlling essential resources, not the final product. Whoever controls the inputs controls the game. Today, in modern business, this has not changed. Look at the largest technology companies, banks, logistics chains, energy companies. They are all vertically integrated structures. If you want to operate according to the code, you need to think like a systems architect. It's not enough to start a company. You have to design an entire ecosystem, where each part feeds into the next, creating a closed loop of capital generation and reinvestment. But to sustain such a structure, there is a hidden fuel that few value: credibility as an invisible financial asset. Let me be brutally honest with you. Your name, your word, your reputation. These are the true guarantors of credit in the great game of expansion. During my journey, I was able to raise colossal amounts of capital not because I flaunted cash, but because bankers, investors, and partners knew that my word was worth more than contracts. While others swore and failed, my signature was enough to open coffers. This isn't built with speeches. It's built with years of precise delivery, fulfilling every commitment, no matter how small. Now, I want you to look at your own trajectory. When was the last time you chose the shortcut over commitment? Every little broken promise erodes your invisible credit. Every promise kept elevates you in the eyes of the market. But even with a solid reputation, a new deadly obstacle arises: the escalation of operational complexity. As the business grows, silent chaos sets in. Departments expand. Production lines multiply. Processes become labyrinthine. This is where empires begin to crumble from within. That's why I established the principle that saved my empire, and still saves large modern organizations today: organizational simplicity with strategic oversight. I didn't get involved in day-to-day, operational details. I trained and positioned senior leaders for each front, but I demanded objective reports, clear metrics, and total performance transparency. Leaders don't command through micromanagement. They command through the intelligent design of decision-making structures. Delegation is not abdication. It is continuous strategic oversight. Think about it. Is your business today a simple, efficient, and scalable organism? Or is it a tangled web of emergencies where you spend your time putting out fires? Complexity is not a sign of greatness. Intelligent simplicity is the true mark of an empire. Now allow me to reveal an even deeper component of the billionaire code: reading economics. Cycles as a weapon of expansion. Most fear crises. I saw them as my greatest opportunities. Understand this law that few dare to accept. Periods of contraction are the supreme moments for strategic acquisition. While others sell assets out of desperation, the man with vision, prepared with cash and discipline, buys entire slices of the market at negligible prices. It was during periods of panic that I acquired competitors, expanded operations, and consolidated absolute dominance. Look at the great modern empires: Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, large sovereign wealth funds. They all follow this same silent mechanism. Notice your own emotional reaction to financial crises. Do you panic or see opportunity? Most fortunes are not born in times of prosperity. They are forged in the cold fire of recessions. But here comes the ultimate test of the code: aligning your empire with a greater purpose. If your only goal is to accumulate wealth, your mind will be corrupted at the height of abundance. I have seen this happen to many who, after becoming rich, became slaves to their own vices and insecurities. Money, when not anchored to a higher purpose, rots the spirit. My steel empire financed libraries, universities, and institutions that empowered thousands to build their own fortunes. This was the virtuous cycle that perpetuated my work beyond my own lifetime. The true billionaire code is eternal because it transcends the individual. It plants seeds of collective prosperity, generating abundant harvest for generations. And here I tell you, with all the authority of someone who has built empires of stone and steel, true victory is not in accumulating wealth, but in perpetuating prosperity. Now you begin to understand the real depth of this code, but it's not over yet. In the next section, I will reveal how you, in this very moment in time, can apply each of these principles, even if you are starting from scratch. Whether you are a young entrepreneur or someone starting over after losses. It's time to step down from the grand theory and step with both feet into the harsh reality you face. I know who you are. I know that many who listen to me now were not born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Some carry debt, others live in silent anguish. Some feel they have already wasted too much time. Let me be clear. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is the decision to apply the right principles with unwavering discipline. I myself started out in a cramped basement in Pennsylvania. No inheritance, no godfathers, just the understanding that few have. Your initial capital will always be your trained mind, your self-discipline, and your ability to take intelligent action. If you are starting over today, the first step is not to seek outside capital, investors, or luck. The first step is to uncompromisingly build a mindset of absolute efficiency. You need to start training your mind to see business in everything, to measure waste in every process, to seek margins where others see only routines. Even if your business today is a small service, an online store, a consulting firm, or even a formal job, apply the code. Control your cash flow like Rockefeller did at age 7, writing down every penny. Cut unnecessary expenses with the coldness of a surgeon. Build a reputation for impeccable delivery on every contract, every project, every service, no matter how small. But it's not enough to work hard. You have to work with strategic growth. Engineering. Are you creating a scalable system? Are you designing replicable processes? Are you investing time to automate operational tasks? If your business depends 100% on your daily physical presence, you haven't built an asset. You've created a job in disguise. From the outset, your mind must operate with one obsession: to create systems that work independently of you. That is the embryo of true wealth. Now allow me to touch on one of the most overlooked points by 99% of those who fail: building alliances. You urgently need to develop the ability to identify and recruit talent that is superior to yours in technical areas. Don't fall into the trap of comfortable mediocrity, where you only accept working with those who don't challenge you. True leaders are not afraid of being the least competent at the technical table. They know that their mission is to maintain the strategic vision, not to be the best executor of every task. Surrounding myself with operational geniuses was the cog that multiplied my empire. And it will be the same cog that can transform yours, if you have the humility to learn. the wisdom to select, and the courage to delegate with supervision. And alongside this talent building, there is another fundamental discipline: absolute mastery of your numbers. Business is not about emotions. Business is pure mathematics: margin, fixed costs, cash flow, turnover rate, operational leverage. Amateur entrepreneurs shy away from numbers. Empire builders dive into them. Because it is there, in the cold numbers, that the early signs of risks and opportunities lie. Always remember, bankruptcy never starts at the cash register. It starts in the mind that refuses to face the numbers with brutal honesty. Now, many will say to me, "But Carnegie, what if I fail even after applying all of this?" My friend, you will fail. Many times, I myself have failed. I've lost contracts. I've made bad deals. I've seen projects fall apart. But I didn't see these setbacks as defeats. I saw them as paid lessons. Each failure was an intensive course that honed my future decision-making skills. You need to reprogram your emotional relationship with failure. It is not the end. It is part of the process. The only true failure is giving up on the process. And as you persist, something extraordinary begins to happen. The power of compound interest from accumulated competence. Every year of applied discipline, every talent recruited, every system automated, every crisis navigated with coolness, it all adds up in invisible layers. And one day suddenly, growth explodes on a massive scale. That's when others will say, "He was lucky." But you and I will know, it was hard work. Now let me give you one final warning before we continue. Don't compromise your ethical principles. At the height of my empire, offers of corruption, manipulation, and destruction of the weak came knocking at my door. I refused them. Not out of naivety, but out of strategy. Because true empires cannot have rotten foundations. Ethics are not just a moral adornment. They are long-term armor against future collapse. The billionaire code demands integrity. Not because the world demands it, but because the empire itself demands it to sustain itself beyond your lifetime. Now that you see how to apply the code, even starting with nothing but discipline and strategy, let's move on to the next block for even higher ground. How to expand globally, perpetuate your work, and enter the higher cycle of transformative philanthropy. Now that you understand how to start, scale, and structure your empire, we have reached the point where most people get lost. The art of perpetuating the empire beyond your own existence. Understand this with brutal clarity. Building wealth is difficult. Preserving and expanding that wealth for generations is infinitely more complex. How many empires have you seen collapse shortly after the death of their founder? How many fortunes evaporate in the second generation? The cause is always the same. The creator did not prepare successors with the same discipline, vision, and principles that built it. That is why the true billionaire does not just build businesses. He builds culture. He shapes mindsets. He transfers wisdom. From early on, I formed a culture of excellence, discipline, and purpose within my organization. My people knew that it wasn't enough to generate profit. They needed to generate impact, efficiency, and responsibility. In your empire, you must act as an architect of non-negotiable values. Every partner, every director, every leader you promote must be a guardian of the code. Don't allow loopholes. A single weak leader, driven by ego or greed, can erode years of building. Now let's go further. There is a higher level of the code, where the financial game finds its ultimate expression: strategic philanthropy as an engine of expanded prosperity. When I published the Gospel of Wealth, it was not out of intellectual vanity. It was out of absolute conviction. I understood something that most will never understand. Wealth is not to be accumulated until death. It must be managed in life with social intelligence. Money in the hands of a few only makes sense if it is transformed into opportunities for many, not to create dependency, but to generate emancipation. That is why I built libraries, not to give away books, but to give tools for intellectual advancement. That is why I funded universities, not to offer diplomas, but to train architects of their own destiny. Make no mistake, blind charity is poison. Handing out handouts perpetuates misery. The truly wealthy create instruments that elevate individuals to become self-sufficient. Herein lies the greatest secret I entrusted to Napoleon Hill. The supreme function of wealth is not to feed the ego, but to serve as a lever for collective progress. When you understand this, your fortune begins to obey the universal laws of abundance, and the financial flow becomes continuous, not only for you, but for everyone who orbits your empire. And understand this, strategic philanthropy is not an end to a career. It must begin at the beginning. From your first profits, set aside a portion for projects that strengthen your community, develop new leaders, create future customers, future partners, future allies. This is not idealism. It is pure market perpetuation engineering. By investing in education, you create better prepared future consumers. By investing in infrastructure, you expand markets. By investing in science, you anticipate productive revolutions that will fuel you in the future. True strategic philanthropy does not distribute fish. It teaches how to forge networks, build boats, and navigate uncharted oceans. Now look at your own journey. Ask yourself, am I just creating profit, or am I already building bridges of legacy? Because there is another factor that few see, the building of historical reputation. The name Carnegie, even today, more than a century after my departure, remains synonymous with growth, efficiency, philanthropy, and vision. Why? Because I understood that the true billionaire also builds an invisible asset, timeless respect. If you want to reach that level, you need to start today to build the kind of work for which your name will be spoken with reverence. 50, 100, 200 years from now. Now allow me to show you something even higher. At the end of your business and philanthropic endeavors, a transcendental stage will emerge, the Council of Superior Minds, the Eternal Mastermind Alliance. This was the concept that Napoleon Hill captured from our conversations and spread to the world. But what he exposed to the public was only the surface. The true mastermind is not just a meeting of partners in a company. It is the ecosystem of intellectual, spiritual, philosophical, and economic leaders that you build throughout your life. I surrounded myself not only with engineers and financiers, but with thinkers, educators, statesmen, scientists. They all formed an invisible circle of influence, where ideas circulated and strategic decisions were refined at the highest level. You need to create yours too, and you can start now by connecting with superior minds, absorbing real knowledge, and distancing yourself from the useless noise that clogs social media and only feeds distraction and anxiety. Now, in the next and final section, I will take you to the grand synthesis, how to internalize the billionaire code as your own DNA and operate all these principles in 2025 with surgical precision. You now have all the gears of the billionaire code in your hands, no longer as a curious spectator, but as a conscious warrior. But let me say this with brutal clarity. Knowing the code guarantees nothing. Applying it will lead you to mastery, because what really separates the few who build empires from the many who fail is not knowledge. It is the unwavering discipline to apply that knowledge when most hesitate, doubt, or retreat. I didn't build U.S. Steel, the largest steel empire in history, because I had inside information. I built it because I woke up every day obsessed with making incremental progress. Because when the world was distracted, I kept moving forward. The billionaire code, at its core, is the art of repeating the fundamentals with excellence until success is inevitable. Now, look around you. In 2025, the world has not changed as much as the masses think. Technologies have evolved, but the laws of growth remain the same. Efficiency continues to reward the disciplined. Focus continues to eliminate the scattered. Emotional mastery continues to defeat the impulsive. The alliance of superior minds continues to catapult visionaries. Methodical growth continues to bury the adventurous. And strategic philanthropy continues to immortalize the true builders. You don't need miracle algorithms, lucky breaks, or influencers promising wealth in 30 days. What you do need is a non-negotiable purpose, almost military discipline, an ability to recruit talent better than yourself, absolute coolness in the face of adversity, a continuous cycle of learning and reinvestment, and a real commitment to building something greater than your own existence. Now listen, while mediocrities look for shortcuts, you will be digging deep foundations. While most will be panicking in the face of the next economic crisis, you will be ready to capture undervalued assets and expand your operations, because the billionaire code trains you to operate with a 30-year vision, while others can't see beyond the next month. And when finally your empire is solid, with systems in place, leaders trained, profits steady, and your name beginning to be associated with the word legacy. So you will understand what I am saying now. The billionaire is not the one who accumulates the most money. It is the one who builds something so solid, so useful, and so inspiring that their name echoes for centuries. And if you've made it this far, it's because the seed of that builder is already pulsing inside you. Now I give you the last command of this mentoring program. Get up, decide, apply, because the code is revealed. The gears are exposed. The path is laid out, but no one will walk it for you. Now it's your turn to build your empire with wisdom. Subscribe to this channel and share this video with anyone who wants to build something great.